though,
All right.
obviously. So I'm just gonna press record really quick. Okay. Great.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all you, Jake.
All right. I'll take that.
Oh, yeah,
All right,
the
yeah.
the mouse back. Yeah. There you go.
And then because I'm just going to do full screen and then we'll get to it. Okay. So we're going to talk about getting the most out of a conference today. Um, I come personally from an English background. A lot of the things I will say today are probably going to be a little bit leaning towards the humanities. So we'll talk about like maybe some differences in the sciences, but my disclaimer is a lot of it's going to sound very humanities focused. Um, we here at Career Services will work with you pretty much at any point in your career, whether you're just thinking about grad school or you want to think about jobs after or things of that nature, whether they're teaching or their industry. Even after you graduate, you could still make appointments with us as an alumni, so feel free to take advantage of that. Here are some of the advising things we do. Like I said, I always like to say, pretty much from start to finish. So anything from figuring out major changes to resume, cover letter, you've got a job, now you want to do interviews, we're really with you every step of the way. Um, we've had a little bit of a facelift, both with scheduling and with our website. So you'll see highlighted in that circle is a schedule appointment button, kind of tucked up in the top right. But we are almost all on Handshake now. And you'll see when you go to Handshake, if it doesn't take you there directly on your taskbar on the left, you'll see a Career Center button. That will bring you right to our scheduler. You'll be able to pick your appointment type, when you want it, and then you'll get someone matched with you. So let's get into some of the things we have going on. We have some career workshops that you can be a part of that you can see the dates here. So some of them have already passed, but you have some left over. We're going to talk a little bit about very briefly LinkedIn. I'm not going to get too much into it, but just because it ties into networking. So there's a networking thing November 13th. So if you've gone to a conference or you're going to one or you're thinking about one in the spring, the November 13th conference might be useful just to have a LinkedIn network if that's something you want to get into. You want to integrate it into everything that you want to do is your choice. But other than that, we also have a career fair. There's typically a few graduate programs and colleges that show up to the career fair. So it's something that if you want to check it out, it will be in the Kibby Dome as usual, October 9th. So it might be interesting to check out because there are a few grad programs or people talking about life after grad school and teaching and tenure and all that good stuff. Um, Associated with that, we have Resume Rush, so that will be before the career fair, so 7th and 8th. We're up here, third floor of iSub, pretty much all day, all hands on deck. You go up to the front desk and you sign up and we'll take a look at your resume. So if you want to take a look at your resume, I know a lot of us might be academic focused, so we're more than happy to look at your CV that day as well, and get you ready for either networking night or a career fair, or just take advantage of the opportunity, regardless of the career fair. If you're someone who is getting ready for opportunities or conferences and you're thinking about dress or what to wear, Joe's Closet's coming back. Usually, as far as I know, that's on the first floor of iSub with the room with the billiards and the arcade machines. That's usually where they set up, and that will be September 25th and September 26th. So now that the logistics are out of the way, we're going to talk about networking. We're going to talk about doing that at a conference. We're going to talk about other than networking, how do you want to navigate a conference, or what do you want to get out of it to begin with? So again, a lot of this is going to sound, it's going to have the word network in it. Network isn't, inherently a bad word. I know I don't, it's a tough thing for me to do, but we all try to do it, right? Last time I checked, it was 72% of jobs are filled internally or through networking. And so I know it's a scary thing to network, but it's an important thing to do. Conferences are a great way to do it because you'll probably hear me say it a couple more times. The academy usually is a very small world. You'll see people, the same people in multiple conferences, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's good to have that rapport with people and get to know people and just try to be as sociable as you can and make the most out of that networking and those relationships that you want to build. So on top of just the networking, as you can see here on the right, some of the benefits are being able to go to a conference and just get to hear about people's research, but also just continue to stay up to date on the field in which you're participating in. I know it's usually, especially if you want to continue in academia, it's great to keep having your finger on the pulse of what are the contemporary issues or problems your field is facing. And a conference is a great way to keep up to date on what's going on in your field because you'll get some of it's digital, some of it might be a paper copy, depending on how people want to operate, but you'll have an itinerary and you'll get to see the projects and the panels and the papers or posters of whomever's there and what they're doing. And it's a great way to just take an inventory of like, what are people talking about? Conferences typically, or at least the conferences I've been to, do have a theme and people can kind of squeeze their stuff into the theme. So it's not that rigid, but it's still a good place to look at what's going on in your field. And on top of that, with this, you also have an opportunity to meet people who are at the same stage. You're going to meet a lot of potentially or go to presentations of people that are maybe famous in the academic sense or big heavy hitters. You're also going to meet people that are in the same space as you. And I think that's a great opportunity to figure out what they're doing and figure out, can, collaborate. We'll see the word collaborate as we go on this presentation, but it's just a great environment. Networking, again, it doesn't have to be this like transactional experience. We can focus on our work, their work, and it can be a really like reinvigorating experience, honestly, because I know grad school is super difficult. And so it's a nice celebratory experience as well as the other tangibles of building your network and making relationships in the field. So this, again, part of networking, again, is always that opportunity to be recommended for opportunities, whether it's postdocs or grants or money or scholarships or anything like that. When you start to build those relationships, you start to, keep going to those conferences, put your face out there, put your name out there. It's always a beneficial thing because again, most of our things are filled through relationships, through networking, and therefore, a conference is a good way to go get a concentrated bunch of a couple hundred people that are doing the same thing you're doing and are in the same thing. They might know opportunities you might not know about. And so it's a good thing to go and socialize and see what's out there and see if there are any opportunities that are out there that you might not know about. Grad school takes unique networking strategies. I think that almost goes without saying, just under the umbrella that grad school takes a unique fervor and a unique discipline and a unique diligence, right? And so the networking strategies are also similar in that it's a small world, like I said. Everybody is super overworked, as you probably all know. Whoever watches this video will know. And so these high-level positions, a lot of people are vying for one or two of them or 10 of them, maybe throughout the country, oftentimes. And so a lot of the networking can be unique around just the unique situations that are in most people's lives who go through grad school, who have perhaps dreams of a tenure track job or just continue working in the academy. And so there's interesting conversations that take place because you might be talking to people who would go after the same position, right? So it's just a unique experience regardless. So how do we approach networking in conferences? Typically, and this is gonna sound a lot like if we talk about networking on LinkedIn or just networking in general, when you go to networking night, really, it's similar energies in that you really, you're not asking for something tangible right off the bat, like a job or a scholarship or whatever, or to get in on a publication. You really, again, it's just standard socialization. You want to know about their work. You could talk about your work, right? And so I think that is a healthy approach to being at a conference is I think celebratory is the word I would use again, right? Like we're here to talk about our work. We've worked very hard to get here. And we've created either the posters, the studies, the IRB studies, the um papers, the presentations, right? So it's good to just celebrate that and talk to people about their work. Ask them about their work. You can ask them about the field. I think there's some sample questions coming up. So I'll go there. Here's a couple samples. You can see research is part of the thing here. And then you can see field. So you can see a lot of it's related to the field. Like I said earlier, I think it's a really good opportunity if you're going to go to a conference to just see what is happening in the field, like what is happening lately, right? You're reading the humanities, you'll probably read some older scholarship, you'll read newer scholarship, so it's good to stay up to date. Science, things get old real quick, right? And so it's good to stay up to date on the studies that are happening. So just it's a great opportunity to just see what people are doing. And see what the problems are because they might have some additional like when you're like, oh, what's the field currently handling, or what are some issues or challenges of being in this field or something like that. And so they might have some opportunity for you to figure out topics you want to explore when you go back to your studies. So just, these are some sample questions, but they're helpful questions in terms of gaining information too. Even if you don't make too many connections, you've still got some good information to go for, especially if you're a master student, right? Like if you're a master student, you're kind of dipping your toes in a bunch of waters of like what I might want to study if I go on to do a PhD. And so it's great to just accumulate that information to figure out, oh, I could, if this is one of the problems we're facing, I'm really interested in trying to better that or something like that. So just it's good to keep tabs on what people are talking about. So in terms of making new contacts, this is also, again, a lot of these bullet points are going to work for multiple different phases of your career. And that could be from LinkedIn to conferences to any other spaces in which you're talking to people and trying to make those connections. This is so cold contacting individuals of interest. This is particularly useful if, and I know the sciences kind of lock their studies behind paywalls a little bit more than my world, although it happens in my English world too. Um, you can message them or email them and say like, well, I'm really interested in your work. I've been thinking about doing X, Y, and Z. Like, could I possibly get a copy of your paper? A lot of scholars are more than happy to do that. A lot of them aren't getting, if their work is getting locked behind a paywall, a lot of them aren't getting paid for it. They're just the publisher. And so they're more than happy to usually give you the papers over email. So contacting, I don't want to knock anyone out and cold cock them, but cold contacting is a good way if you, especially in the sciences, you want an article. They're usually more than happy to give it to you. Then it's nice contact someone that is doing research like you, right? And you can ask them about stuff. Um, somewhat like an informational interview. You can ask them again. Those sample questions are good for informational interviews too. So whether it's on LinkedIn or you're a fan of someone's work and you want to email them, you can kind of be polite and ask a question about you know the field, or I really want to get into this type of research, what advice do you have? Stuff like that. And so that's not outside the realm of possibility, even beyond conferences, when we think about how do we make connections in an academic space, those few things are up for grabs. This is an example, and I'm just gonna I'm gonna put them up here. This is an example, you see A, B, and C of some ways that you can make those contacts. You see the template up at the top. I know that we live in a, online digital world a lot of the time, so like some of these answers, like the cup of coffee or meet on Zoom or a phone call, I'm not as focused on that as the PowerPoint may imply. Asynchronous conversations are just as good, in my opinion. So on LinkedIn or through email, like I talked about, those are applicable too. Nothing wrong with getting coffee either with them if they're around your, if they live near you, or like if they're in a different department, or for conferencing, right? You can, if they're not too busy, you can sit down with them for a half hour and pick their brain on some of this stuff. So I think that's helpful as well. This can be done in person at a conference as well. I've kind of talked about informational injuries already. I've kind of done my spiel about, doesn't have to necessarily always be a phone call, doesn't have to always be a Zoom, right? Whatever is comfortable for them or easy for them or convenient, right? We're all busy, so even asynchronous communication is good. You'll get a lot from it. This is, I think I said this at the beginning, but the purpose of all of this is to learn more, make connections, maybe even collaborate and do some projects together, right? We're not trying to make it transactional and get a job or a scholarship or a postdoc or something. It all starts like human to human, right? You want that as authentic of a connection as you can, rather than try and get something specific out of it. Here's some more sample questions. Again, the rhythm or the theme of these questions is to get them talking about themselves and their work, because that's what a conference is for, right? And that's what they're here for. So they're more than happy to talk about it. And then see where the industry is. I've said a lot about getting a feel for the industry, so I won't repeat myself. But here's some sample questions, again, that you can use to talk to people and start some conversations. So if you're someone who's introverted or has like trouble, like me, right? I've got plenty of trouble starting conversations or walking up to somebody. Hopefully, at least having a tool belt of questions like this might at least help you walk up to somebody, at least get the ball rolling, and then see where the conversation goes from there. Here's some networking opportunities, so conferences, which is why we're here, right? And we've talked about informational interviews on LinkedIn. We've talked about career fairs, chance encounters. This actually happens a lot, like depending on, right? Like think about the conference you're going to. There's probably then a lot of hot spots around it, like maybe the restaurant or bar that's in the hotel, if they're doing it in a hotel, the airport, right, that people are going to, some walkable areas, right? So like there is opportunities to see a lot of the people that you met or saw walking around, which, again, they're chance encounters, but still they do happen, and they're useful, right, to sit down and be in a more relaxed environment can have its advantages when it comes to the art of conversation. So as far as like tips and logistics, so we're going to kind of maybe lean out of the networking now and more towards just like preparatory things. You will usually have some kind of itinerary, whether it's digital or kind of like a little booklet, and you can kind of plan your day out, and you can figure out, well, what are the panels, conference, presentations, posters, whatever they are, which ones do I want to go to? So you can really plan it out, and that will help your efficiency and helps you pick, well, these two are at the same time, and I really need to make a call, and I'd rather go to this one, but there's something on a similar topic on for the first one, right? So you can kind of plan and maximize what you want to look at as best you can. Asking good questions is always a good thing, right? I mean, if we are talking about networking, then one of the things or one in here is to stand out, and standing out would be asking good questions during the sessions, right? Your LinkedIn, it's good to have your social medias up. Like, I'm not a fan personally, and so it's just personal, of Twitter, but I know a lot of people who are going around those conferences, at least used to. I don't know what happens with the transition of Twitter, but they'll hashtag the event. They usually have a hashtag for the conference, and you can post things with the hashtag and interact that way. So there is a little pocket on social media with hashtags that you can participate in and see what other people are talking about and doing. And so that with LinkedIn might be beneficial to stay plugged in that way as well. Again, it's a small world, and a lot of professors or researchers or scholars are also on Twitter. And so if they're at the conference, they might be using the hashtag. They might be, even if they're not posting, might be browsing, right? So it's always a useful thing to try and extend and sustain your visibility so that more people have eyes on what you're doing and all that good stuff. It's a long day. You're gonna usually be doing a lot of walking. And so plan breaks and have water or bring food, whatever. I'm sure they will provide food, but like it sounds funny, but it is a long day, and you're walking a lot all around the convention center. So I think the traveling with others and the spreading out is a huge advantage, right? If we want to meet new people and we want to talk to people, then the buddy system might not be as advantageous for you, especially if you want to go to presentations that other people don't want to. Then it's good to split up for a bit and meet some new people. I never had a business cards, but I was given a lot of business cards. Did I do anything with them? Not really, but the second part of the bullet point is useful for me. You don't have to do it on your business card. You could do it on your note app on your phone, or you can have a little note, a little detective-like notepad, whatever you're comfortable with. But it actually is good practice, both as a researcher and for conferences, to write down if you've had a good long conversation with someone and like, oh, we should collaborate, or I'd love to know more about your research, right? Just write down like what you were talking about with their name, so you kind of remember, you can recall, go back and look at your note and recall like, oh, I remember this person now. We talked about X, Y, and Z. So if you're gonna talk to 10 to 20 people, it's good to write down the memorable ones or the ones that have actionable things like, oh, we might collab, or like I'd like to talk to them later, know more about their stuff. Just so you remember who they were, what they were talking about. So that's usually a good practice. Consider applying to speak at events. You can do usually a number of things, whether it's a panel, you can collab with your friends and have a panel. You can sometimes have a poster session. I know this humanities has poster sessions as well. I imagine it's bigger in the sciences, which is great. I think posters are a great way personally to ease yourself into conferences. If you're someone who's nervous about public speaking in front of a group of people, posters are a little bit more intimate way of like, people walk up, you have a nice conversation with one or two people, rather than like kind of addressing a crowd of 15 or 10 people in a room. You kind of have a more personalized conversation about your work, maybe even ask them about theirs. So posters, I think, are a good way to slide into conferences if you're new to them. Another strategy for being able to participate at events is being a panel moderator. If you are someone who doesn't have a project ready to go and you kind of want to put something on your CV, being a panel moderator is a good way to still be able to put that confidence on your CV that you were still a participant in it, not just a spectator. And so panel moderator is someone who kind of comes in, helps make sure technology's okay usually, and then keeps people to time. So make sure every person's not going over their time, and maybe facilitating questions with the crowd. So that's a good way as well if you're someone who is just starting and you're a little nervous about getting into the whole presenting thing. Those two options are pretty good ways to lean into conferences. So you get to go in and have that full experience. And then we talked about the social media tags. Posters, again, I just went into the posters. The panels, again, whether you are watching them or listening to them as a spectator or doing it with a couple cohort members, that's also again a good way to relieve some of the pressure from you is being in a group that you're all going to present together. So again, and then like I said, the collaboration word would show up. That's mainly again, you're going to meet people who are pretty much at your speed, right? They're second year master's student, first year PhD, whatever the case may be. You're going to meet a lot of people who are in your shoes, and you're going to want to collab with them or take advantage of like making those connections and coming up with people, right? Because that's just, I think that's very healthy to collaborate rather than compete. I know some people who are in grad programs that can be very competitive, and that's no fun, right? So take advantage of the positive energy here and the people, wanting to collaborate because they found someone who's doing the same thing as them. So it's a great opportunity to just kind of, be with people who are doing the same thing. Publisher tables, this is something I will admit I'm less privy to on the sciences. I know I've been told that humanities is a great opportunity, both again to see, just take a look at the inventory, what they have, see what people are writing about. But also those publisher tables are a good place to pitch your ideas. Because again, you're in the moment, you've got the human element, you're talking to them. And I've been coached that is a successful outlet. If you are interested in pitching a book or something, you can fully take advantage of the rep that's there and talk to them and see what you got going on. So there are publisher tables I know in the humanities, or at least in English. Not so sure about the sciences. So if you are in the sciences, you might want to just double check, do some search and see what's out there. I had mentioned before, it is a small world, but it is indeed a small world. I presented kind of the same, three pieces of the project over my 2 years of my master's. And the second conference, someone came up to me and said, my professor saw your work and showed it to us. And so that's a pretty small world because the conference, 100 people, maybe 200 people sometimes. And so the fact that people are coming to the next one saying, yeah, he saw that. And so that's a rewarding feeling, right? First of all, it's rewarding. And I think part of, which is the cathartic part, right? Where it's maybe you met a couple people and you do make those connections or you do collaborate, right? But grad school is really difficult. And there's a lot of fields where it's really difficult to publish. And so even that small level of people coming to view your work and you get to celebrate the work it's I think important over a 2 to 4 year span where you were on the grind nonstop, right? You take a Saturday off and you feel guilty for doing that. So there's a cathartic element to conferences that I think are important and you should take advantage of. And then the pragmatic, like I talked about, you'll see the same people. You will see them over a course of time, over multiple conferences, especially as you kind of tunnel in on your area of focus or study, and you start going to maybe more specialized conferences. rather than like the big Super Bowl like conferences that are like important for everybody in the field. So a pragmatic and a healing element of like these are things that you can take advantage of as well. I don't really know about thank you notes in this area. You certainly want to be polite and thank people for talking to you for informational interviews, or if you ask them questions. Certainly want to send you certainly want to thank them in the process. But you can, keep the connections going as long as you want, right? This is these people are doing research with you, or they are studying the same stuff as you. You can reach out and ask questions, right? Keep that link going. Try not to, try not to sever the link by just being ghosted or ghosting them. So if you want to keep in touch, then I would say, do keep in touch, right? I mean, and so like asking a question or discussing a research topic, those are some subtle ways to kind of keep the lifespan going of that connection. That can be done again, LinkedIn, their email, right, or whatever the case may be. I kind of mentioned they're in the same shoes as you. Again, great. It's just a great opportunity. People, you have your cohort or you get one cohort or maybe two if you go on to your PhD. And so they might not all be your cup of tea. So this is a great opportunity to go meet some people who are doing the same stuff as you. When I studied in English, I was working on how to improve mental health in writing studies. No one in my cohort, my master's degree, did that. No one in my cohort in my PhD did that. And so it's nice to go to a space where people come to your presentation, ask questions, maybe want to collab, right? So it's a great opportunity, again, not to be a broken record, but I can't stress enough how healthy it is to find people who are doing similar things to you. And again, people love to give advice. I think that's really important, right? It's, advice is always, people's advice is always shared through the lens of their experience. However, so take with a grain of salt and, listen to them and see what their advice is, because some stories are wild and like I had a instructor tell me one time that their advisor said, you're never going to get a tenure track job because they take one look at your skimpy bookcase and they see that you're not devoted to the field. And it's like, wow, that's a wildly toxic thing to say. And so like that's a crazy piece of advice, right? Just getting people's stories and listening to them and see like, oh, okay, so maybe I should buy some paperback books, or maybe that professor that told her that is just a little outdated, archaic, right? Tangential anecdotal stories, but still like these are the type of things you pick up on, right? Not just what the field is doing from a scholarship point of view, but from a political point of view, right? Like things to do to put yourself in the best position if you really do want to get a tenure track job, because we know that that's a mythical achievement to get one of those. And so like what would I need to do? What steps do I need to take? So both professional from a scholarship work standpoint, but also kind of a political, like talking to people kind of, networking type of thing as well. And then we have a LinkedIn thing here. Again, we've talked about LinkedIn enough for a conference kind of presentation. And so this is the end for me. So I think I'm done. I don't know if the questions are coming. Or we just kind of hit the.
Yeah, I mean, just like the folks on Zoom have questions. We have 8 people on there right now.
Oh,
So
we do? Okay.
yeah, if anybody has questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or speak up. But if not, just give it a few seconds. Doesn't look like it. Thanks, Jake.
Yeah.
No, appreciate it. Cool. Well, if anybody has any questions and you think of afterwards, I'm just gonna drop my email in the chat. Feel free to pass it along to me. And I can get it to Jake or Career Services, and I'm happy to follow up on that, but thank you so much, Jake, and and we'll see you all at the next professional development initiative, so
Yeah.
thank you. All right, bye.
Bye.